So turn on the recording. Thank you. Welcome everyone to a joint meeting of the Board of Trustees and the Planning Board for the Village of Lansing. I will open the village's meeting at 7:30, and Lisa, I'll let you open your meeting.
I would like to call the Planning Board meeting of October, joint meeting with the trustees of October 18th, 2021 to order at 7:31 p.m. Thank you.
The first thing on our agenda is public comments. If anyone has any comments for us that are not related to the topics that are already on the agenda, please use this time to speak up. Okay, I see none. I need a motion and a second to close the public comment period. Looks like Simon.
I move to close public comment.
Simon. Okay, Simon, and then Pat seconded. And all those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that is unanimous, Jody. I see Carolyn made it. Hi, Carolyn. The next topic is to the approval of our minutes from October 4th, 2021. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes, and are there any discussions? Okay, I will need a motion and a second for approving the draft minutes.
I'll motion that we accept the minutes of October 4th.
Thank you, Pat. Need a second?
Second, Simon.
Simon seconds. Okay, any further discussion about the minutes? All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions or nays? None. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, I'm moving. One thing I do want to say before I start the next topic, the trustees will need to hold an executive session at the end of our meeting tonight to discuss a current legal dispute. That will be the trustees and Jody and Bill Troy. I don't think it will be very long. It's just something we need to discuss in executive session. Our next topic, Rachel, I hope you got the email that we're going to talk about the climate action plan next. The climate action plan, Rachel was instrumental in helping our Climate Smart Communities Task Force to compile this climate action plan. It builds off of our greenhouse gas inventory. This is the next logical step to help us set some sort of ambiguous goals, but with some details that will help us try to attain those goals. There are no negative consequences if we don't meet any of the goals, but it just gives us targets to aim for during the next 5 years. And I hope that everyone has had a chance to look at the climate action plan. And if you have any questions, please speak up now. We will be looking, we have to have the trustees' approval on this document before it can be submitted as part of our Climate Smart Communities documentation. So are there any questions for the task force or for Rachel?
I have a question. I just, in the very beginning, there was a wording with increasing extreme weather events. Rachel, can you give me what that? I mean, I know there's events, but
yeah. So what we thought was the normal standard for these weather events, what we might call the 100-year storm, we are seeing increasing evidence that those rare events are just becoming more commonplace. And we know, and there's a lot of evidence out there scientifically that by reducing the amount of emissions from greenhouse gases now, we can potentially mitigate how intense those future storms are going to be. I do think that that's a good point, though. This climate action plan, as Ronnie said, is meant to target on reducing emissions from greenhouse gases. It isn't just for adaptation plans to those major storms, it's good planning, but the goal of this strategic document is to lay out a series of actions in reducing your emissions from greenhouse gases, which is why it's built off of your greenhouse gas emissions inventory that was already completed.
Thank you.
And it only applies to government operations. It's not for village residents, the community. This is just for our operations within the village government.
And as Ronnie said, it is non-binding, and part of the goal of this document is to have ways to reevaluate and decide, are the actions working for you? Are your ways of implementing the actions working? Are you too hard on yourself? Are you not hard enough? So that is part of the plan, and there are tracking mechanisms built in, as well as review cycles for this document.
Are there any other questions?
Ronnie, I see a couple of corrections that need to be made. On page 5, it has the Village of Lansing constructs and now uses a solar powered speed sign on Craft Road. It's actually on North Trip Hammer Road.
That was Trip Hammer?
North Trip Hammer Road, yes.
Actually, there was something I had to notice. Hold on, I'm trying to find the page now.
Also on page 17, it says city, and I think that's supposed to be village facility.
That's the
At
one
the
I
very
had.
bottom under miscellaneous.
On what page?
17. At the bottom is city. And then there's also on page 16, under fleet emissions, it has town board, and I think that should say village board.
Yeah.
It's like
That's
my
what
cut and paste problem, probably.
That's the one I was going to bring up. It says town, and shouldn't it be village?
Mhm.
There's 2 spots. Fleet emissions and two fleet emissions.
Is that both on page 16?
There's
16.
2 on 16 and 1 on 17.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Thank you for those. Those minor mistakes we don't want ending up in the official documentation. So we really appreciate that. And I will drop my email in the chat in case you've come up with another in the next day or so and want to get it to me directly. We can make these edits probably really, really quickly and get it over to Ronnie so you can see the final version, or just know that it's going to go in there. We will get them in.
And I don't know if you need to note, like on page 9, you talk about your energy consumption between 2013 and 2019. And we added a whole new building. So I think that's kind of, it should be noted in there because that is one of the reasons why the change happened. And then also under fossil fuels, it all depends on how much snow we have to plow, or if we are using outside contractors instead of our own vehicles and equipment. So, I mean, the numbers can vary based on what actually happened.
I think a lot of that was covered in the greenhouse gas emissions document. So maybe we could just reference over to that document, because I know we put in the additional building and weather events, and it depends on snow in that document. So perhaps if we did we have that in the appendix, Rachel?
The greenhouse gas emissions in the appendix of this document, or do you,
Yeah,
did we have?
yeah, we could just reference to the greenhouse gas emissions document for that extra information.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
just
sure if
think
it's
you
been
can
in,
put- Go ahead.
oh, sorry, you go ahead.
I just think you can put a little sentence in there that just says, one thing we should note is that between 13 and 19, we added a new building. That way you don't have to go trying to reference stuff. It's all right there.
Yeah, I do think we will add the appendix on the emissions inventory as well. I just think to keep the document smaller, we haven't been adding them into these drafts, but yeah, we can definitely reference that and make that clear. And yeah, these are meant to be target averages for these numbers. They are not going to be 100%. And we try to make that clear also with these action items. You know, they could potentially, some of them could be more or less effective at reducing emissions, and it all depends on lots of little factors that are impossible to entirely predict right now. So it's definitely good to acknowledge that. And yeah, you know, a year that you rely more on contractors, it might seem like emissions are going down, but if you don't do it as much the next year, obviously that could change. And I think that's why it's really good to keep evaluating on a 5-year cycle to hopefully even out some of that variability in weather and other events.
I have a quick question.
Hey, John.
This is John. I'm with the DPW. How do the last few years rate instead of was 2013 like a low key year? Is that why we went back that far? I mean, how does the last few years average out in the differences on the ups and downs of all the consumptions?
I know that 2019 was selected because 2020 starts getting into some abnormal numbers due to COVID. And I believe that 2013 was meant to be it was chosen as a comparison year just to show how things have changed over time rather than just giving stagnant numbers from a single year. They thought it'd be more informative to show how things have changed over the 6-year time period. I wasn't on the team yet when we did the greenhouse gas inventory, so there might have been another reason why 2013 in particular was chosen. Ronnie, do you remember if there was a reason?
We decided to start with 2013 because that is the year that the new village office was being constructed, and then we moved in 2014. So we decided that would be a good year to show the normal pre-new building energy usage with some variation because of the construction, but then the 2014 would be partially new building, partially old building, and that seemed kind of like a good hybrid 2 years to get the energy consumption. And I think that Terry Carroll mentioned that going back farther than about a 7-year span is what he recommended. And we figured that 2013 to 2019 was good. And 2020 would have been just kind of out the window because of the pandemic.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, John. Any other questions for Rachel or the team, the task force rather? Do you feel comfortable do the trustees feel comfortable in voting for this document, or do you want to see these minor changes added to the document before you vote on it? Randy, you're on mute. Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
What are we voting on? if this is a, what was it called earlier?
Unbinding, non-binding.
Non-binding document, what are we voting on here?
You're voting on the planning document that would allow us to start trying to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions within government facilities. And this is our first stab at it. Suggested actions we will be taking over the next 5 years. And we set some target goals, 1% for the first year. It increases to from 1 to 2% to 3% over 5 years. So that's what we're voting on is the planning document. The climate action plan is basically our planning document to monitor village government operations as far as our emissions, our greenhouse gas emissions, and trying to improve them. So that's what you're voting for.
Randy, I kind of liken it to a comprehensive plan for greenhouse gas emissions for the village. We're just voting on a plan, on a direction that's non-binding, but it gives us something to work towards.
And I think I saw it was 1% reduction over the next 5 years. Is that what it was?
Oh, is that correct? I probably got the years wrong. Yes. And we've got some goals to start that. Then at the next 5 years, we increased to 2% a year. That's per year.
Sorry, I was just going to say that that's on average. You know, if 1 year does more than the next year, you could maybe do a little bit more 1 year and a little bit less the next or something like that. And yeah, just as they were saying, it's a framework of actions that you can take. And also it gives you a way of evaluating yourself and how well you think you might be doing.
Okay.
So would the trustees be willing to vote for approval of this document tonight, or would you rather wait until those final changes are made to the document to vote?
I'd be happy to vote for it tonight.
I'm happy for it to move forward, but I'm on the task force, so I'm just kind of waiting for someone else to jump. I would like other people to be happy with it too. I'm on the task force. I've seen it enough. I've given Rachel enough changes to make over the past few months, and I know she'll make them.
Okay, then I will need a motion and a second to approve the climate action plan with the friendly changes. Carolyn, did you move? Carolyn moves. A second. Randy seconds. Is there any further discussion? All of those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, Rachel, when you make those final changes, why don't you send the final document out to everyone here just so that we know that they were made? Or you can send it to me or the task force and we'll make sure that the trustees get it. And I guess, would the planning board members be interested in this also? Would you like to see a copy of it?
Yes, please.
Okay. It's a done deal. Yeah, as soon as we get the final with the last few little changes, we will send it out to everyone who is on this meeting tonight.
Wonderful. Yeah, I will definitely send that over. And I just want to reiterate, I work with TC Tompkins. I don't know if you know that, but I will be continuing to work with you guys beyond this project. So you have more ideas and everything, make sure to bring them over to Ronnie and we can talk about incorporating them in the future. Other than that, thank you guys so much. And I hope you all have a good night. And I dropped my email in the chat if you need to reach me.
Thank you, Rachel. And thanks for all of your help on this document. Pass it along to your team.
Awesome. Thank you so much and have a good night.
Good night. Thank you. Okay, so the next topic on the agenda is the discussion regarding cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site consumption establishments within the village. So we can start that discussion now. The board of trustees at our Thursday meeting last week, decided that we would like to at least have one public hearing if we can, and two public hearings if possible before the December 31st deadline. So that's kind of why we're pushing this now. We need some time to set those up. So let's start the discussion. Does anyone have comments on the meeting tonight? This is for opting. The laws we would pass would opt out of each of those individually, one for retail sales and one for on-site consumption of cannabis.
I'll start the discussion. Oh, Lisa, you can start the discussion.
Well, I wanted to understand, before we even get into that, if you opt out, what is the process for opting back in?
We would have to repeal the law. That
Okay.
means that we would basically, the trustees would repeal. We probably would have, I would suggest a public hearing just so that we could get input on whether we should repeal it or not.
Okay.
But a super majority of the Board of Trustees would have to vote to repeal. But I think that before we did that, we would have at least one or two public hearings to discuss it with constituents who were interested in it.
Okay, I just was wondering about that process. You know, it sounds great. Oh, well, we don't need to decide now, we can always opt back in, but how easy is that, for example? Or, you know, how long does it take? And I was just curious about the process. Thanks, Ronnie.
You're welcome. I don't know how long it would take. It depends upon the public meetings.
Right.
So, you know, probably within 2 months worth of meetings, we would have it resolved.
Okay, thanks.
Just a guess. Jim.
I have a question, kind of related to Lisa's about the process. Apparently, if the village passes the local laws to opt out, they're both subject to permissive referendum. So
They
my
are.
question is, if, assuming those laws pass, and then later, kind of following up on Lisa's question, if the village wanted to opt in, would that local law also be subject to a referendum?
Not according to what I've read about state law. Now, we could probably decide for ourselves that we wanted to set a permissive referendum.
Yeah, I'm not advocating for it. I'm just asking the question, since apparently it's required to the referendum is required for the opt-out. I just was wondering if it worked the other way as well, that if a municipal entity wanted to opt in, would that also be subject to referendum? I mean, I don't know. I don't have a position on it. I'm just curious.
I looked, I didn't see anything within the state documentation that how to opt in. And so I went to village law, and all it says for a local law is that a supermajority of the elected officials, which would be the trustees, would have to vote to repeal. But I don't see how we would do that if we had gone through all of the permissive referendum process to opt out. I would think that we would at least set a permissive referendum for our constituents. But things are kind of up in the air with this. They might give us some more information later about what they would recommend. But Jody, you had a comment. Am I wrong about that?
Right now, if you want to opt in, you don't have to do anything.
Right.
But
Right.
to opt out, you have to pass a local law, which is subject to permissive referendum. Then
Right.
if you wanted to change your law, obviously you have to go through the whole law process again. Am I correct, Bill?
That's my understanding.
I'll send you my link that I found for village law as far as repealing, because that's the only thing I could find. I could find no real clear direction. But whatever it is, whatever it turns out to be, we will follow that to make sure it's done correctly, and probably go above and beyond that too, just because of the issue.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, Jim. Any other comments?
I could lead off the non-procedural substantive conversation if we want to move to that. I know with the procedural, a lot of it is also very new and maybe changing.
Right.
So we'll do our best with what the information that we have, and it's not complete, and it might change before the end of the year. But substantively, there's 3 things to consider: retail sales, on-site consumption, and manufacturing. And I'm looking at it from first a public safety standpoint, first and foremost, and then second, a business and development economic standpoint, secondary. And those are the 2 balances that I see. And looking at our village and what we do here and what we provide, we have a business park, and I could see there being a manufacturing facility at that business park thriving and otherwise not affecting the village. On the other flip side of that, we could have an on-site consumption, and then I could see that being dangerous in terms of driving under the influence. And we could have retail sales, which we have a lot of retail in this area, and I could see helping our retail establishments being beneficial to the village. So substantively where I am is, yes, manufacturing, yes, retail. I have issues with on-site consumption.
I'm in the exact same place as Carolyn there, and she said it really well. I'm for opting into retail sales, but I'm not convinced on on-site consumption. I mean, retail sales, I just see like it's like a liquor store akin to alcohol, and we have those in the village. I think if people want to get this, they're going to be able to, and I'd rather it stay within the village. I'd like that sales tax to stay here. I would like people not to have to travel to go and get it. Again, from the public safety standpoint, I don't think it's outside of the realms of possibility that, you know, people have a few drinks on a Friday night and then they want to get something. I'd rather them stay within the village and be able to walk, get it, than to, you know, people traveling to go and do this. The on-site consumption, though, I'm not there with. I don't understand how that will all work out. I don't know if you can have an on-site consumption lounge in the mall, for instance. And I see places that you can't have on-site consumption. It says indoor arenas, but that said something about swimming pools as well. So I took that to mean like sporting facilities. But the consumption lounge, I don't see as akin to a bar with alcohol, because I can walk past a bar, I can walk into a bar and not be affected by the alcohol. But a consumption lounge is a little bit different. I can be affected by not actually partaking in the activity, just through the secondhand smoke. So I don't know how that will work, and I think we might need to figure that out in the code, like where we could potentially have consumption lounges. So I'm in for the retail sales, not in for the consumption lounge.
Thanks, Simon. Lisa.
Yeah, me too. I did watch just a couple of the YouTube links, and I just can't quite, because we don't have a true center to our village where like people could walk to get to it from where they live, especially. I mean, you can, of course, but I just have concerns about that with some of our North Trip Hammer intersections and whatnot. And I did note that in New Jersey, for example, when they did get into this sort of thing, they said no food or alcohol could also be consumed at the social lounges. So I think there's a lot more difficult issues to be thought through, and I just don't feel in this time frame that we can give them justice. But I think the manufacturer, one of the advantages we have in our village is for the retailers, you can park here, go in and purchase something and go back to your car and leave. And I think our parking just makes this possible. I also would like people to have accessibility to not just recreational marijuana, but medical marijuana. And so I just know, honestly, in my age group, of course, we grew up in the 60s and stuff. So I have any number of friends who are having some health issues and finding that medical marijuana is helping them. And so I don't want to eliminate that aspect either. So I'm in total agreement with Carolyn, but I am concerned about how we think through the social consumption issue.
More comments? If no one's going to speak, I'll speak. Oh, Randy, is your hand up?
Yeah, I
Okay, go
guess
ahead.
it'll be interesting to hear what the public says when we have our two meetings. I appreciate what these three guys just said. You know, it all makes sense. Those are issues that I'm struggling with. Plus, in addition to that, I'm old and I'm old fashioned and I'm against drugs. You know, I think it's to allow the younger society just to turn to drugs now, I think is wrong, but you know, it's common. And I'd be curious to hear what people in the public think say. I can't imagine there's somebody that's trying to start a business in the mall, but you never know. Be interesting to hear their inputs.
Mike, do you know if you could have a consumption lounge in the mall? Does it fit within what's allowed for a consumption lounge?
I think other than, I mean, obviously retail sales, we have to change the definitions a little bit. And if you have an on-site consumption area, I'm not sure that there's anything we have in our definitions that would accurately describe that. I think we'd have to add it to, our definitions and add it to whatever, like you said, whatever district you might want to allow it in. But as of right now, either way, we're going to have to make some kind of changes.
Yeah, that's why I'm for the retail sales, because if there was retail sales in the mall, we can walk past it and not be affected by it. But if there was a consumption lounge in the mall, I don't know how that works with air handling, or I don't know what the rules are. And I think that would be something that we have to look into more, and we'd have to write into the code where they could or could not be allowed. Because if you were to walk past in the mall, indoor space, you have kids, whatever, you can be affected by the secondhand smoke, and that's my issue. And we just haven't had enough time to look into that or to make our own definitions in the code of where these things could be allowed. So that's why I would say to opt out of the consumption lounges for the time being.
Bill.
Yes, back at the time we were looking at paperwork concerning the mall change, and I saw a lease, maybe Mike can back me up on this, on the list of things that are not allowed. It was quite long and quite esoteric. So I think we'd have to talk to Mike Gavin, the attorney for the mall, and see if they'd even allow this in the mall, even the sales.
Right.
Because I mean, some of their exclusions made no sense to me, but I didn't spend much time pursuing it because it really wasn't germane to what I was doing at the time.
Thanks,
Do you
Bill.
remember that, Mike Scott? Do you remember that, looking at that?
Yeah, it had some unusual stuff on there. It was like, okay. I mean, why this and why not that? But
Like out of left field. Like I was thinking, you probably want most of these things, and they were just adamant they didn't want them. So we can take a look at it, Mike and myself.
a consumption lounge would help the food court.
Yeah, lots of munchies.
Chocolate.
Jim, Macaulay.
What? Yeah, I was thinking that earlier. When somebody made the comment about no eating establishments co-located with the consumption establishment, I was thinking that point. But what I wanted to ask is, this is probably Bill's department. Are there standards about driving impairment? Under the, I mean, there are for alcohol. There's numerical standards, but what standards, if any, are there?
There's always what's called common law DWI. So, they don't do a test, but you fail the test where the cop looks at you, bloodshot eyes, lack of coordination, that type of thing. So you can charge somebody with that without getting a breathalyzer, for example, with alcohol. With the drugs, it's a little different. I think you may have to go to the hospital and get blood drawn, but you can charge somebody saying, in my opinion, as a professional, this guy was drunk or this guy was under the influence.
So I guess my question is, I mean, certainly there are lines where you can have, a drink or two, or I'm not sure really how much, and still legally drive. Is there some minimal threshold of, cannabis consumption or presence that would be okay for driving or not okay for driving. You know, for example, let's say there were a consumption lounge in the mall or somewhere else, and somebody from Warrenwood or the town of Ithaca thought they'd go over and partake. Well, they're probably not going to walk. They're probably going to drive, and that would create, I think, arguably a safety hazard. And like Lisa, I went to college in the early 70s, so this is like part of the distant history. But I posed the question.
I'm not sure. I have a feeling that if there is not now, that the two commissions that are set up around this law would probably address that. If there isn't something already on the books, that would be a good question, possibly for the county sheriff. He would know if there's anything currently, and if not, then he would know what to expect or what to watch out for from these commissions that are supporting this new law.
Yeah, because in addition to Simon's point about being affected by the smoke or the smell of the smoke, the public safety argument in terms of driving, I think is certainly a strong consideration and something that the village has to think long and hard about.
I have a question. Have we had any feedback from other municipalities about this? Or has anyone been in touch with them, even like the town, to see their feelings?
Mike.
Pat, I did reach out to a bunch of the other code officials. The information at this point, I'll run right down them. Cayuga Heights, they're not opting out. The town of Ithaca, city of Ithaca, they are not opting out. The village of Trumansburg is not opting out. You've got the town of Ulysses, which they have sent out flyers, and they've also had a public meeting about it, and no one showed up. So they're looking to lean towards not opting out. Newfield and Enfield, they're basically just starting the discussion like we are. And the town of Dryden, they've discussed it briefly, but they have no decision, but it's looking like they might opt out. And also our neighbor, the town of Lansing, has opted out.
Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Bill.
I know for a fact the village of Dryden has opted out. I represent them. And the town of Spencer down in Tioga County opted out as well.
I think what's going to happen is you have an area where you're surrounded by people who opt out, and then if you don't opt out, then you may bite off more than you can chew. So I'm sort of comfortable with us being a buffer between Lansing and Dryden and then Ithaca if we opt out to just the consumption.
I'll tell you a story. I think I've told this to a couple of people. Impact, Texas. I lived in Abilene, Texas. 1963, Impact was a 40-person community. They basically broke off from Abilene, city of Abilene, and created a wet suburb of a dry town. And their first month of being open, they made $454,000 in 2019 money. That's probably close to $5 million 1 month. Abilene continued to consider itself dry, although you could drive less than 10 minutes from any point in the city of Abilene and get to Impact and drive all the way back. There were 3 colleges there. Religious colleges, but believe me, there was drinking going on in the colleges. So for 15 years, Abilene received no tax revenue from alcohol. 1978, they finally decided that they would start allowing the sale of beer, wine, and liquor. And Impact died a couple of years after that. But for 15 years, Impact was extremely wealthy. 2 sheriff's cars were Cadillacs, fully fleshed out Cadillacs, one at each end of the road. It was like a mile and a half stretch of road that they maintained. So that's what happens when you have a spot that allows for consumption of whatever around an area where it is not allowed. So they bit off more than they could chew, but they got paid handsomely for it. So that's a real story. Bill.
As a resident of the village now, more than the attorney, given that we do have a drug treatment facility here that's trying to help people, is this the best place to be, opting in, I guess is the question, just in terms of the visuals of the whole thing, particularly with the availability of it everywhere else. I put it on the floor. You could technically have the drug facility and about a 3 or 4 minute walk away, you can have, the whole Megillah.
I mean, I equate it to the liquor store. I mean, we have a liquor store and we
Right.
have an alcohol. I mean, they treat alcohol as well.
Right.
So, I mean, this is legal now. It's not illegal anymore. So I equate that to be equal.
Actually, one of the reports, when the Alcohol and Drug Council first proposed their facility there, they said that most of their clients within the Lansing area, we're talking about constituents within the village and town, was all alcohol addiction, nothing else. And then we have liquor stores and beer and wine at grocery stores. And I mean, addiction is not the type of thing where it's proximity. It's you're going to go wherever you need to go to get the addiction. But you've got to deal with the real world once you come out, that all of those substances to which you were addicted are going to be everywhere around you anyway. So I'm not sure. I understand what you're saying, and I've wrestled with that too, Bill, but I think since it's a legal substance within the state of New York, there's not much we can do as far as preventing it from enticing people into addiction. Hopefully it won't, but it just shows we're a diverse community, I guess. I don't know.
Is our goal this evening just to discuss this and come to a decision later on, or are we under a time crunch that we need to really have a decision this evening so that we can get the permissive referendum done in time?
I don't think we have to have a decision tonight. I think that what we should do, though, is set up at least one public hearing and hear public input to this. And then at the end of the public hearing or hearings, if we need to, then we can vote on the law. We need input on the law, what people think about the law. So I think tonight we should go. Jody.
So what you would be doing tonight is the laws would come forward, and that's what you would have the public hearing on. You'd have the public hearing on the law, which is to opt out. And then if you decide not to, then you just don't pass the law. But it's tonight you're setting public hearings for the 2 different laws.
Correct.
Sounds like
Yeah,
3.
I'm sorry, Bill.
Sounds like 3 if we're talking about
Manufacturing.
manufacturing, consumption, and the sale.
We only pass a law for the ones where we opt out. The rest we do
Right.
nothing.
That's correct.
So it
Well,
could be
the
potentially.
The resolution says that has come from NICOM is that there are 2 areas. And they are the 2 different, the retail dispensary and the on-site consumption.
It might be that only the state controls the manufacturer facility.
Yeah, I never heard this third basis, a third leg. Not that I'm an expert in this.
No, I don't think a lot of people are because it's so new. The manufacturing is a much larger investment. I think it's less likely to happen as quickly as retail or consumption lounges or facilities. But It's definitely something we can continue to look into. But,
And NICOM, I thought they mentioned all three. Mike, did you ever watch that PowerPoint or look through it? Because I thought they said three when I was there.
I did watch it, and they mentioned it, but they don't touch much on the whole manufacturing because of the restrictions they have at this point. They don't want people taking out whole cornfields and putting this in. So the state is still, as far as manufacturing goes, the state is still kind of out there as what they're going to allow.
I think that's part of the equity aspect of this law. They want to be sure that poorer communities are not severely impacted by the law. And part of that is where things are manufactured and who's employed. So I think that that's probably still being considered by the two commissions that were instated by this or created by this law. It's too new for them. They've only barely started meeting, I believe. So we might not have any details of manufacturing until next year. Any other discussions? Okay, so we will need a motion and a second on putting forth these two laws and having a public hearing. And I guess at our next meeting, the first meeting in November, right, Jody?
Mhm.
November 1st?
Yeah.
So I would need a motion and a second for that, please.
I'll move it.
Randy moves. I will second then. So we will have a public hearing at 7:35 at our November 1st meeting to discuss both of the local laws. I would recommend to everyone on the meeting tonight, please contact your local listservs, your neighbors, and let them know about this public hearing so that we can receive some good input. I don't want to be like, what was it, Trumansburg or Ulysses that didn't have any comments. So I would like to get some comments from our citizens. So let's put something up on our website. Jody, let's send something out to our village listserv and the neighborhood listservs that you have, and word of mouth, whatever you can do. I'm asking everyone on this meeting tonight to please get the word out for this public hearing. And if there are too many there, we will have a second meeting and just roll over the discussions into the next meeting too. And it will still give us time to deal with the law before the December 31st deadline.
Ronnie, will you have, so the two laws that you're proposing will be on the website so that if we have people that are interested, we can refer them for more information to the website?
Yes.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Okay. Now we still need to vote for this, right, Jody? Did we do a vote? We didn't vote. Okay. I'm sorry. I jumped the gun there. All those in favor of having the two laws and a public hearing at our next meeting, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Jody. Thank you. Good discussion, everyone. Keep researching because there's all sorts of information out there. And if you find something new, please share it with us. Every little bit of information helps. Thank you. So Lisa, that's, if you'd like
I
to
was going to
close your
say,
meeting.
I'm going to ask a member of for a motion from someone from the planning board to move that we adjourn our meeting and have a second, please. Do I have?
I move that we, this is Mike. I
Jim?
move that we adjourn.
Mike has moved that we adjourn.
I
Jim
will second.
Second at 8:19 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you for attending and helping us out and listening. And if anyone wants to stay on from the planning board, you're more than welcome to continue the meeting.
Hey, Lisa, do we need to vote?
You didn't take a vote, Lisa.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
did everybody
Oh,
leave?
no.
Tony left, but that's all right. We still have,
You have your quorum?
we do have a quorum.
Yeah,
We
yeah, you have a quorum.
Leyline, Mall, Macaulay, and Baker all saying they would like to adjourn.
Okay.
I guess it's now at 8:20 instead of 8:19, according to my. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for attending tonight's meeting. I appreciate it. Have a good evening if you leave. Okay, the next subject is we have to go over this full EAF for the sewer extension project. So full environmental assessment form for sanitary sewer benefit area expansion for a project located on Cayuga Heights Road, Twin Glens Road, and East Shore Drive in the village of Lansing. So we will have to go through this, the full environmental assessment form. Did everyone get a chance to look at this FEAF? Hang on a second. I can't see the screen. Mike, sorry, go ahead.
You're okay. I just wanted to let everyone know that I heard back from Scott Doyle as far as his GML 239 goes. He had a couple questions for me and whether the village is actually let's see, let me find it here. Whether the village has discussed the determination of how much added development that this improvement would support, along with the impacts of that added development. And my email back to Scott was that the village and the engineers have done extensive work on the project, including impacts of future development. Otherwise, without doing that, you wouldn't be able to size the structure. You wouldn't be able to determine what type of system you would need. You need a large enough system to be able to handle the max out build that we would have within that area. He asked me to provide those. I said that basically we took a look at years back. Marty Mosley had taken a look at, for example, Mr. Horowitz's land and what could be the maximum development from that land, which would actually jump into this new sewer phase along with any other vacant land that could be built on. Now, I didn't send that information back to Scott, but I did tell him that, our engineers would have to have taken a look at the basically take a look at the maximum amount of flow or whatnot to, like I said, be able to size the project. He hadn't gotten back to me. Scott hadn't gotten back to me, so I don't know whether that satisfies him or not. But they did say that they would probably end up taking the full 30 days to review this whole subject. I did ask him, I said, do you have any questions on the actual full EAF? And he never got back to me on that. So I just kind of want to let you know where we're at. The defense I used was, our engineer, the village and our engineers didn't just come up with this out of the blue. The sizing, we had to use the information that's the maximum possibility or the maximum flow that would actually go into that system. So that's how it was designed. That was my theory to him.
Lisa, I'm sorry. Lisa.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up in public comment because it's really, as you know, I live on Cayuga Heights Road. So, and I have neighbors who keep approaching me. So what's going to go on with the sewer? And we have a lot of questions as just how do you tie in? Do you have to do it right away? All these things. And one of the concerns too is, and I thought perhaps it was just me, but once this becomes a sewered area along Cayuga Heights Road and Twin Glens, people can subdivide their property from, the site size is no longer 60,000 square feet. It goes down to 30,000 square feet. And I don't know, and now that you bring it up, Mike, is the reason I'm bringing this up because Scott has mentioned it. It's not just the Horowitz development, but there are other people who, our property would be large enough, for example, to subdivide. I don't want to because, and nor did the neighbors I've spoken to, want to because we purchased these properties because we didn't want to have somebody right next door. But times change, and so I don't know. But I think it's something we have to consider. I have no idea which individual properties would be allowed to subdivide actually, or how that works. I know that 30,000 square feet is about 2/3 of an acre, I think. So, or 3/4 of an acre, something like that. But it's just something that I do think has to be considered along with what Mike Scott just said, what Scott Doyle said is, you know, it means when you add sewer, it means more development, of course. And this is LDR, and we'll just see. But I want the trustees to keep that in mind. I'm hoping you will consider that. We do have, you know, the rental properties in our town are significant too. And sometimes I think people might just divide and put another rental property on. I would hope not, but I think it will change the character of, or has the potential to change the character. And maybe that's what people want. So I don't know, but it's something to think about.
Thank you, Lisa.
Can I say something real quick? This is John again. The
Hi, John.
amount of development is all relative to the capacity that Cuba Heights has to treat. So if everybody remembers the moratorium that was on the village years ago where there wasn't available sewer permits because the treatment capacity at Cuba Heights was not accepting any more units. So they got 30 slated for Weinstein's and 30 slated for Young's, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm not sure how much the potential build out is of the village for new development, other than to hopefully capture failing systems that are along this corridor. So I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Will the trustees, will you be holding some sort of informational public hearing, so to speak, for people to come and get answers about questions that people have about all of this, the process and how they would tie in and what they have to do and what potential, you know, an estimated cost? How does that all work? Just so I can answer my neighbor's questions.
We sent a notice out to everybody along the corridor about 2 years ago. Jody, I think, has a record of that, explaining the situation. I think we're so invested in this now that trying to hold a public information session on whether to build or not would be tough to do. But I think we need to maybe give them some advisory on how to connect and what the process is, and definitely put a notice out when we're going to construction. Well, I'm not sure if we're gonna, I don't know, it's up to Ronnie and the board on that.
Oh, it's really more about information, what you said, the process of, you know, if, do I want to tie in? And I said to somebody, I don't think you're obliged to, as long as your septic is working, but once it fails, I think then I don't know, but I don't want to pass false information. So it has been a long time. I think people have long since, I have, for one, don't remember what that missive said from 2 years ago. But there just were a lot of like specific questions like, well, I'm on the uphill side, I'm on the downhill side, all of that kind of stuff. Not saying we don't want it. That isn't part of it. It's more like, how is this going to work? And I'm thinking of adding on to my house. Should I add this stuff now? And all that kind of really nuts and bolts kind of questions that certainly I'm not qualified to answer.
Please forward them to the DPW and we'll get the
Okay.
answers for them.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
If it's something that we can put up on our website and give people a link to open it up and answer FAQs, frequently asked questions about it too, that's something that's simple to do. We just need to compile it and put it up. Mike, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I was just going to ask John, you were working with the engineers. they tend to take that information of worst case scenario and then they oversize it from that point of view so that they, they have some type of slop or some type of percentage of enlargement. Is that what they did, John? I mean, did they were
Yeah,
pretty.
they took in consideration all the benefit area and did size the capacity was like originally 12 inches or 12-inch sewer main. And we downsized it because we were concerned that there wouldn't be enough use right away. And we feel most of the sewers where they're running 1 million gallons a day down in back of the mall is somewhere around 12-inch. And we didn't think we were ever going to get that use. So it was definitely engineered for future development, not only the development in a town that would be able to connect to it, but what potential like sundowns but I can get you raw answers from the engineers, but they did take all that into consideration. It's basically a forced main that's going to pump it from Cayuga Heights Road intersection of East Shore Drive. So you don't need to be like super large pipes, but definitely the development was considered. Absolutely.
And this is something too that I'm finding that a lot of times the county will ask a question as though we haven't already looked into something. I mean, the village and John and the engineers, I'm sure they've gone through all of this. And like I said, that sometimes the county come up with questions just to ask questions. And like I said, that's my opinion. And
Lisa, you might also want to look at the sewer section of the codification. Because I think there's information in there about sewered and non-sewered, if I remember correctly. And also Don had talked about changing lot sizes or something, what if we ran sewer through there. So we should probably look back at that also.
Okay, thank you. I may get in touch with you just to be sure I know what I'm doing in that regard.
Okay, getting back to the environmental assessment form. Did everyone review that form? Did you have any questions about it before we, this is just for part 1. We still have parts 2 and 3 to go through. But if you've got any questions on part 1, please raise them now. I had one question, but it was answered. I'm flipping back to the page. I think I had it highlighted. Yes, on page 8 of 13, section O, under, go back, there are lots of subsections under this part. See. Anyway, it's on page 8 of 13 under D2 project operations, the section O. There was a question where does the proposed action have the potential to produce odors for more than 1 hour per day? Yes was checked, but there were no details. So Dave Herrick included temporary exhaust from construction equipment may be produced during the hours of 7 a.m. and 5 p.m., excluding weekends and holidays. And that was the only question that I had, or concern that I had about the form. I don't see any others that I highlighted.
is that question, Ronnie, are you asking whether that got put into what was submitted?
It did get put in to what was submitted. That was the only thing I found through my first review, but right now it is in there. So that was the only question I had. Does anyone else have questions? If not, we will jump to part 2. Mike's going to.
Yeah, I can bring that up. Jody, can you share
bring it up?
I did.
Okay.
And this, unfortunately, we're just going to have to read through. It's quite a few.
Can you refresh me on when, maybe John, when is it most likely that this project will start? Do we know?
I think John has jumped off.
Oh,
We're trying to get this done so that we can at least start getting bids and parts ordered. We've got to have a list of parts and so forth to get those ordered too. I would suspect that it would probably be next spring before it starts, maybe summer. But that's just a guess on my part. So part 2 builds off of part 1. And this is Mike, do we need to read this intro to everyone, or?
No, we don't normally read it through there.
Okay.
Just a couple of notes that, you're considering the whole action.
Right.
You're considering the impact of the whole action. This doesn't require you to be an expert in analysis. This is basically you're reviewing this as a board and coming up with the best answers you can possibly come up with.
Correct.
And one more thing, Ronnie, before you get going. As you go through these, I go up on these, you'll see that if you go through the first section, I think there was 16, Ronnie. If we go through these, if you do answer yes in this case, you'll end up going through these other ones. The nice part of this is each question below that refers you back to a section from part 1. So if you don't have the section if you don't have part 1 in front of you, I can kind of flip back so you can look at it if there is kind of indecision about the actual question they're asking.
All right. I'm looking for E. E. Okay, so we will step through each of these 16 sections. Some of the sections I don't believe will have any pertinence to this project, but the ones that do, we will have to maybe answer some sub-questions. So impact on land. Proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. And I suspect that that's going to be a yes, since we'll be digging in the ground. Okay. 2D. Okay, so proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet. Let's see if there's anything in E2D. It just says TBD feet. So I don't see anything specifically to that. The average depth to bedrock on the project site is 3 to 6 feet, but for the 2D, E2D, what is the average depth to the water table on the project site? It's to be determined, TBD. That's what it doesn't say. So no or small impact, I guess.
Well, that doesn't necessarily follow though.
John is back on if you want to ask him.
John, are you on?
Yes. Yeah, I would check probably yes on both of them.
Moderate to large impact may occur on this first one.
No, wait a minute. I didn't hear the moderate to large impact.
Yeah, it's going to take quite a bit to get to the moderate to large impact.
I would say no then.
Okay. Okay. The proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater.
No.
No, that's 0 to 10% is what they estimate in this part 1. Proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of its existing ground surface. Yes. That would be, what's the average depth? 3 to 6. So I would think that would be moderate to large impact. Okay. If anyone disagrees, speak up. The proposed action, D, the proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. I've got to go back to a different sections. D2A. Oh, boy. Okay.
I believe that one's yes.
I think
but-
that's over. I think John's correct
Yeah.
on that. That's
Okay.
over.
All right. Thank you. So for D, moderate to large impact. The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple phases. No or small impact, right, John? Because that it shouldn't take more than 1 year.
Yeah, no, I would think no.
Yeah. F, the proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal, including from treatment by herbicides. I would say no or small impact. The proposed action is or may be located within a coastal erosion hazard area. No. Okay. Is that all of the first section?
Yeah, as long as you don't have anyone else think of any other impacts it could possibly have as far as impact to the land?
I mean, is C really large impact, or is it a small impact? That's the only one that I'd question.
Well, the length of the project, they estimate 3 to 6 feet to bedrock. So that's almost the entire project. Wouldn't that be considered moderate to large impact to the land? Or is it basically because it's a small ditch, it would be a small impact?
Well, I mean, you could leave in there as a large impact, and then when we get to part 3, you can describe that there isn't a large amount of surface that's being exposed 3 to 6 feet. It's actually a narrow section, and that could be your explanation for your reasoning behind a large impact. Basically, when you get to the end, anytime you do the moderate to large impact, you're going to be required to explain either how you can prevent this or why you actually marked moderate to high.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously, John, if we're making a decision that doesn't fit with your concept of the project, please let us know, okay?
Yeah, I'll do my best to.
Okay. So let's go to the next section, Mike, or the next page. Yeah, section 2. Impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site, e.g. cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, caves. I would think
I'm
no.
like, no.
Impacts on surface water. Proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies, streams, rivers, ponds, or lakes. Weren't there a couple of small streams that were impacted, John?
They weren't really classified as streams, but what did Dave put on that one? Didn't he partially fill a template out?
One of them said that it was like there are ponds and waterways and wetlands within the project site. I didn't quite understand though. Then the next question said, are there any of these adjacent to the project site? And I said, or any of these adjoin the project site? And I said, no.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, the first one is checked yes, and then the rest is blank or no. There are intermittent streams. There are 8 intermittent streams. Classification C. So I don't know if those would be.
I think they're within the project site, but I don't think they will be affected by the project. You know, we're not cutting into rivers or streams here, right, John?
Yeah, they got to cross a few of them, and I can't remember. I think we sent the water quality back to DEC and had to get that review done prior to getting the permits for the state. And that was all answered, and they were like unclassified. So I'm really kind of confused because part of the first sentence, the first thing would be no, but then if you start reading the examples given, then yes, you know. I would probably have to put yes on that.
I think if you do go, I think if you do go with a yes on this, if you reviews, if you're gonna find a lot of these questions down here are gonna be no or small, they're gonna be pretty easy questions, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would be more cautious and do the yes,
Yes.
I agree
Yep.
with you.
Thank you. Yeah, that sounds like the sub paragraph 4. It's not yes or no, but it does have data, which to me indicates a yes. So there are 2 yeses and 2 nos. So I think we're right. We're going the right direction. Proposed action may create a new water body. No.
No.
Proposed action may result. B. The proposed action may result in an increase or decrease of over 10% or more than a 10-acre increase or decrease in the surface area of any body of water. No. C, the proposed action may involve dredging more than 100 cubic yards of material from a wetland or water body. No. The proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining a freshwater or tidal wetland or in the bed or banks of any other water body. No. E, the proposed action may create turbidity in a water body, either from upland erosion, runoff, or by disturbing bottom sediments.
I'd probably have to say yes on that one. I mean, you're gonna get some turbid water
Yeah.
when you cross them streams because you're open cutting the streams.
Is it a small impact?
Yeah.
Yeah, small impact, very
Yeah.
small.
Yeah.
Because they will bypass pump them. You know what I mean? They'll
Yes.
cofferdam them and then bypass.
Right.
Maybe no on that one.
The proposed action may include construction of one or more intakes for withdrawal of water from surface water. No. G, the proposed action may include construction of one or more outfalls for discharge of wastewater to surface waters. No. The proposed action may cause soil erosion or otherwise create a source of stormwater discharge that may lead to siltation or other degradation of receiving water bodies. No. The proposed action may affect the water quality of any water bodies within or downstream of the site of the proposed action. It wouldn't impact the water quality of the lake, would it, John?
No.
It'd be a small impact, if any.
Did we miss one? Like I? No. Okay, we're not
No,
down there yet.
Right. Yeah. J, the proposed action may solve the application of pesticides, herbicides in or around any water body. No. K, the proposed action may require the construction of new or expansion of existing wastewater treatment facilities. No. Or is that a yes?
The proposed action may require the construction of new or expand of existing. I'd say yes, that's because that's the purpose of the project.
Well, not really, because that's a treatment facility. They're talking Cuga Heights.
So they don't have to do anything.
They can already, with the existing conditions, they can accept the additional flow from our collector system.
Okay.
It would be no or small
Okay.
right now. Yeah. Okay, L.
The county would be very proud that we're discussing this. That's good.
L is just other impacts. So if anyone knows of another impact that we've missed, speak up.
For that one, on number 3, we put yes for the overall, but everything else is no. Do we just have to word that as there are some impacts, but they're all small?
Yeah,
Right.
that's basically what we're saying.
Yeah, we don't have to address anything unless it's a moderate to large. So section 4, impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. I would say
no. Is that what Dave had down? Didn't he pre-fill this one out?
Yeah, I believe it's gonna be no. I mean, you're not,
We're not introducing new.
I think this is guided more towards it, like if you were fracking or something like that, or you were doing working below. I'm trying to find out where you had this. D2.
D2A. He marked yes.
Excavating, mining, or dredging.
He might be because the sewer line may channel groundwater into different aquifers or in different paths. They'll channel the groundwater. I'm not sure it's going to introduce contaminants to it, though. That's confusing to me.
Well, and all the small impacts would be no on that. You can see them. We're not doing any of that.
Yeah.
But a new sewer, if you have more people using the new sewer line, wouldn't that be additional use of groundwater?
This has to do with the construction, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it does have to do with the construction. I think you're probably better off going with a yes on this, just by the way it was filled out. I mean, you're talking about, will the proposed action generate liquid waste? Yes. I think I would be cautious and go yes here, and just go down through them again. I know this is a lot of questions, but.
Okay.
They look like
That's my referral. It's up to you.
My argument, it would take contaminants out of the groundwater because if you have more systems hooking up to the sewer, I don't know if that makes sense. You have more, you're capturing the stuff that might be leaching out into the groundwater on a septic system. But I don't know if they're talking construction or what.
Hey, you're looking at the whole scenario, even like you're talking about the end game of the whole thing. So if you look at it that way, I could see why you'd say no.
Let's go through this as if it's a yes and see what the sub questions give us. We might change our mind at the end, but since we're fairly new at this, we want to at least do it right. Okay, A, the proposed action may require new water supply wells or create additional demand on supplies from existing water supply wells. No. B, water supply demand from the proposed action may exceed safe and sustainable withdrawal capacity rate of the local supply or aquifer. No. The proposed action, C, the proposed action may allow or result in residential uses in areas without water and sewer services. Yes. Well, it's no or small impact though. Be a small impact. Well, would it though?
What?
What's up with it for your? What's up with it for your done when you watch your team play?
C, the proposed action may allow or result in residential uses in areas without water and sewer services. Well, they have water, they don't have sewer services.
Yeah, I think that's a no.
Yeah, I guess it's small, no or small. The proposed action may include or require wastewater discharged to groundwater. No. The proposed action may result in the construction of water supply wells in locations where groundwater is or is suspected to be contaminated. No. The proposed action may require the bulk storage of petroleum or chemical products over groundwater or an aquifer. No. The proposed action may involve the commercial application of pesticides within 100 feet of potable drinking water or irrigation sources. No. All right. The section 5, impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on land subject to flooding. Do I?
No, yeah,
No.
well, I'm just saying that I don't think so because what you're doing is not changing areas that are subject to flooding. It's not
Okay.
like you're stripping a big area of land away and it's going to be diverting water in a different direction or anything. That's my input.
I know that the E2, I, J, and K are all answered no. I don't see anything.
I'd put no on that one too. I don't think it's a direct impact.
Hey, Ronnie,
Yes.
I got Dondi on the phone. Did you want to go back to that question and see if he could help us answer it?
The section above?
Yeah, or is that too late? Did you want to?
No, we're right there. It won't hurt. Dondi, we're looking at section 4 on the full environmental assessment form, impact on groundwater. We checked yes, but we said no for all of the answers, just because we weren't really sure.
Can you read the question again to him?
The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater, or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. I guess the construction itself would not be using groundwater, correct?
And then you could put
Here, say that again. He said, say yes, and then put none of the above.
and then you can check no or small or moderate,
Okay, that's what we did.
and then
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
and then it's temporary during construction for dewatering.
Okay, I got you. Temporary during construction, dewatering stuff. Yeah, okay.
Other impacts?
Should he put that under other impacts, dewatering, or no?
If there's a line there, you can fill in. That might be on the part 1, or you're filling out part 2 now.
Yes.
Yeah. So part 1 might already have that described in there.
Okay. All right. So we won't have to. All right. So let's go on with the impact on flooding. We decided that whole section would be no. Impacts on air. The proposed action may include a state regulated air emission source. I don't think we should have any emissions just from the equipment. So no, I would think.
That is correct, and that's temporary.
Right. Section 7, impact on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna. I would say no on this.
I think we're taking down some trees there, right? I mean, we're replanting them, but we are taking down trees. Does that count? Everything would be minor, because I think you take down trees, right, John? But then you're just putting them back.
That is right. Clearing underbrush. There is some
Right.
impact.
So you're right. I was thinking of animals more than the plants. Let's put yes, but no or small impact for the questions. Okay, and E. No, on E, no or small. You're right. Proposed action. Yes, I did. That's no or small.
Was actually
No or small. H. Proposed action requires a conversion of more than 10 acres of forest. No. Or small. Proposed action, commercial, industrial, involves use of herbicides or pesticides. No. Okay, so that one wasn't too bad. 8, impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources. E3A. Let's see what this says here. No, not according to this. Yeah. Impact on aesthetic resources, 9.
You're not really changing any of that.
No, it's all going to be below ground, isn't it?
It would be minor. The only thing that would make a change would be the pump station at East Shore Drive and Cuba Heights Road. So it would be below grade, but there might be some pipes sticking out. So it'd be super minor.
Okay, so
They're asking their proposed action are obviously different from or in sharp contrast to the current land. So you're really not going to have much of a change there, you know?
Right. Okay.
By the time you're done. Are you trustees good with that?
Yep.
yes, so far. Yeah, I didn't see anything that would make it a yes. Impact on historic and archaeological resources, no.
No.
We don't have history or archaeology. 11, impact on open space and recreation. Proposed action may result in a loss of recreation opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. I would say no. I don't think there's any open space or recreation there.
The kids are not supposed to play by the road anyway. So there's no.
Yeah. Section 12, impact on critical environmental areas. Proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area. Let's see, E3D, how was that answered? This is something that I'm not aware of. E3D, no. So 12 would be no. Section 13, impact on transportation. Proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. I would say no.
But the questions they have down, I mean, you look at, when they're doing it, maybe there's going to be some road work.
No, that's not what they're thinking about.
Proposed action may result in a change of existing transportation systems.
I don't think they're talking about a minor little block traffic for a day or two.
I would say no.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're changing the direction of the road or, changing we're just not, yeah, I agree. I don't think that we're doing anything like that. 14, section 14, impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. Just looking down through, I don't see anything that we would be doing. So that would be no. Section 15, impact on noise, odor, and light. Yeah, there's going to be, yes, but it's going to be temporary. May produce some sound above noise levels established by local regulation. I think that's probably going to be
The whole scheme, though, it's going to be kind of a small impact.
right.
All 3.
Yes. Yes. And proposed action may result in light shining as possible, headlights. Proposed action may result in lighting, creating sky glow brighter than existing area conditions. No. Okay, section 16, impact on human health. Proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. I would say no. 1 D2Q. Let me look at D2Q just to get a feel for it.
I'd say no to that.
I'd say no also. I don't see, it's taking me a while to find Q.
And reviewing some of these questions down below, I don't see anything.
No, there's nothing in that section. Okay, is that the end of the part 2? Oh, no, 17. Consistency with community plans. Proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans.
Yeah.
So we're saying a no negative to a negative?
We're saying we got a double negative there.
Yeah, it's kind of an odd way to ask that question.
You want no on there?
No. 18, consistency with community character. Proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. No.
There, you did it.
That's all of it. Okay.
You did it.
Now we have to go back and address that one moderate to large.
Where we put that, we'll address that. We'll end up addressing that on part 3. We'll end up addressing these at part 3. We'll have to write something in. At this point, you'll go through the resolution.
Okay.
Determine whether this is a negative impact or a positive impact.
Okay.
And that will allow you, once you take a vote on that resolution, that will allow you to fill out part 3.
Okay. So can you or Jody share that resolution? Had everyone read the resolution that Jody provided to us this afternoon? We have one of two choices, that it's a negative declaration of impact or a positive declaration of impact, environmental impact. So option 1, should we read this, Mike?
We're option 2, right?
Bill usually advises you run down through it or ask if everyone has read through this, just so it's in the minutes. Is that correct, Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Okay, then I will read it. Village of Lansing Board of Trustees resolution for seeker review of the sewer expansion project adopted on October, shouldn't that be October 18th?
Yes.
Thanks. 18th. Yeah, okay, good. Whereas A, this matter involves consideration of the following proposed action. Expansion of the village's sanitary sewer collection system will include 13,300 feet of 12 and 8-inch gravity sewer main, 7,250 feet of 6 and 3-inch forced main, 2 duplex pump stations, manholes, service laterals, and other appurtenances along East Shore Drive, New York State Route 34, Cayuga Heights Road, and Twin Glens Road. Residential and commercial properties along the corridor of the new collection mains can connect to the system at any time. The northern terminus of the collection system will also facilitate a point of connection for the recently formed Town of Lansing Sewer District Number 1, TOL-SD Number 1. The estimated design average flow over a 20-year period is approximately 60,000 gallons per day, which includes a maximum flow from TOL-SD Number 1 of 30,000 gallons per day. All collected flow will be conveyed to the Village of Cayuga Heights wastewater treatment plant. And B, on October 18th, 2021, the Village of Lansing Board of Trustees, in performing the lead agency function for its independent and uncoordinated environmental review in accordance with Article 8 of the New York State Environmental Conservation Law, the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQR, 1, determined that the proposed action provided for herein is a type 1 action in accordance with SEQR. 2, thoroughly reviewed the full environmental assessment form, the full EAF, and any and all other documents prepared and submitted with respect to this proposed action and its environmental review. 3, completed its thorough analysis of the potential relevant areas of environmental concern to determine if the proposed action may have a significant adverse impact on the environment, including the criteria identified in 6 New York CRR section 617.7C, and 4, completed the full FEF. Completed the full EAF, and Now therefore be it resolved as follows. Are we option one?
Your option one, if you declared it to be a negative declaration, your option one. So someone has to make a motion for that.
I think we're option one. I would make a motion for option one because I don't think it's significant. We ticked a couple yeses, but I don't see that they're significant. The keyword was significant for me.
We need a second.
Second,
Randy seconds. All those in favor of selecting option one for this resolution, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
right?
Okay, that's unanimous, Jody. Okay, if you'll go back, thank you, Mike. I will read option one then. Option one. One, the Village of Lansing Board of Trustees, based upon one, its thorough review of the full EAF Part 1 and any and all other documents prepared and submitted with respect to this proposed action and its environmental review, including any visual environmental assessment form deemed required, and comments and recommendations, if any, provided by the Tompkins County Department of Planning in accordance with General Municipal Law Sections 239-I and 239-MJ. Two, its thorough review of the potential relevant areas of environmental concern to determine if the proposed action may have a significant adverse impact on the environment, including the criteria identified in 6 New York CRR Section 617.7C. And 3, its completion of the full EAF Part 2, including the findings noted thereon, which findings are incorporated herein as if set forth in length. Hereby make a negative determination of environmental significance, negative declaration, in accordance with seeker for the above referenced proposed action, and determines that an environmental impact statement will not be required. And 2, the responsible officer of the Village of Lansing Board of Trustees is hereby authorized and directed to complete and sign as required the full EAF Part 3, confirming the foregoing negative declaration, which fully completed and signed full EAF shall be attached to and made a part of this resolution. So that is done. We will need to go to Part 3 now.
Well, you'll need a motion for this and then.
Oh, a motion to accept the, okay, we need a motion and a second to approve the resolution.
Didn't we just do that?
Yeah,
that was
Simon
for the-
moved it and Randy seconded it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I thought that was just for the option. We don't have to do the full resolution as a separate vote then.
No.
Okay, thank you. That's one step we don't have to do. Okay, Part 3. Okay, so this is the supporting documentation.
Yeah,
that-
we'll go down. This is type 1. You've got all 3 parts.
Right.
Go ahead, Ronnie. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just trying to figure out where we would put the
That'll be here where we have, although the project could have significant adverse impact on the environment, the impact will be avoided substantially mitigated because of the following contributions will be required by lead agency. So here's where we have to check B, because the first one would be absolutely none. If we did all of the no or small impacts, we'd be checking A. If we found that there were many, and there was a real problem of a large yes or large impacts, and we go with C, and we'd have to go through a whole separate bunch of paperwork. But at this point, we'll go with B, and then we have to describe from those 2. I have to go back to them here. pull them up again. What you want me to write in there
Right.
for these. Proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface. Impact will, I can put in there something like impact will be 3 to 6 feet. But
Impact, yeah, impact will range between 3 to 6 feet along the entire length. And the removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material will be used to cover the sewer line once it's installed. Is that correct, John? Is he still here?
Yes, yes. I don't have
Okay.
a whole lot of battery left, so sorry about this, guys. But
You've had a long day.
You or your phone, John?
okay, for C, what I'm gonna put in here for C is the impact 3 to 6 feet, but limited to a small trench along
Okay.
roadway.
Okay.
And you said D, we want to, what was that again? I was writing the other thing up.
The excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material will be used to recover the installed sewer line. So we do excavate, but we use it to fill in around the sewer line once it's installed.
Okay.
We backfill with the same material. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, good. That's a much better way of saying it. Same backfill with the same material after installation.
Okay. Unless you trust me to add that in there, I can, I'll print this out. That way I don't take up more of your time. And then basically at that point, if everyone has agreed that has been filled out properly, then I'll need Ronnie to sign this as officer of the lead agency. And I'll sign it as prepare, but I have to have John's as a contact person because his name is on the part 1.
Okay. Yeah, you fill in your part, and well, you'll have to sign. Yeah, fill in the wording we put together tonight, and then I'll come in tomorrow to sign this.
Okay. What you can do, I don't know, Bill Troy, you want them to at least make a verbal agreement that everything was filled out to their satisfaction? And we
Yes,
have it on record?
they can just say on the record that they all agree that they have thoroughly completed this form.
The one discussion we didn't have is that we don't have the final results from the 239 review, but I don't think that any significant issues from the 239 review will come up that would delay this. What happens if something does come up, Bill? I mean, what if we do get something from the 239 review that?
Well, you get it in 30 days and you have to talk to them about how serious it is.
Okay.
John, you're not going to do construction in the next 30 days, or maybe you are. John,
say that one more time, Bill.
are you going to be doing construction within the next 30 days or so? I don't think
No.
you will. Okay.
No.
So it really shouldn't have any immediate impact on you, even if they come back with something.
Okay. So that's the one potential hiccup, but I don't think it will be serious. And we have the ability to override their issues if we disagree with them with a supermajority of our trustees' votes. So, but it's just the only thing we don't really have at this point is the 239. But we will get that hopefully within the next week or two. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I know that was excruciating. My
So
voice is.
you have me really confused. Are you actually passing that seeker resolution? Or now are you going to wait until the county
No.
gives you?
No, they are passing it now.
No, we are passing it.
Okay.
We don't expect any major issues from the county. If something does come up, we will deal with that as we get to it. But
And dealing with it could be either overrule what they say or go back and reopen this and amend it. That's no big deal.
Yeah. I agree. All right, so let's see, making sure that I am not missing anything from our agenda. No. The mayor's comments, basically, I have two brief things. John and his crew did a fantastic job, and they've got the Graham Road Dart Drive, the Graham Road Bridge culvert back in. It looks great. Thank you, John. It's really nice, and that's even before the road's paved. It's a pleasure to look at. You guys did a great job. And
Thank you.
the other thing is just community information is the county health department is setting up clinics for Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine booster shots. So anyone who had a Pfizer vaccination and you're in one of the categories for a booster shot, please, I think you have to register online, but please consider doing so. And other than that, I don't have anything.
Yeah, you have to do the executive session.
Right.
What about the
but
CompuTel?
that's going to be in
That's what we're talking
executive
about.
session. So is there anything from trustees? Simon, anything?
I've got nothing. I was just wondering anything about the TCAT bus stop situation. Was any meeting ever set up?
Not yet. They're waiting to come in and talk to us about it. I think they're
November 15th.
middle of November.
I know I drove by that again with an eye towards, I attended that meeting with Ronnie with the TCAT people. And I almost feel like I'm missing something from what everyone else was seeing in terms of the bus stop creating a hazard. It seemed to me, oh, by the way, one piece of information you guys might not know is how frequently people are using that bus stop. I mean, it's a lot. It's like 10,000 rides. It was a crazy, crazy high number. And for me, I would very much like those people to have a place to stand that's not in a culvert or on the road. So I saw that very, very differently when I drove past it, thinking about there being a actual flat portion of land off the road where they can stand than from what, some of the other people's concerns were about building it. But we'll hear more on November 15th.
Yeah, we'll see more. Hopefully some better plans for what it's going to look like. Carolyn, do you have anything?
Just we're moving with solar still. Lisa and Tony and I met, but I have a question about just the way the town and the village work together, and maybe Jody or maybe everyone else knows the answer to this. I don't understand. I recently got a letter from the town of Lansing telling me to register my dog, and I'm just wondering at what point is our code playing, and where's the interplay in terms of codes? So we follow all of their codes plus our codes, or are there places where we follow only our codes? I'm just generally interested.
If you look in our codification under animals, it says that we follow the town code on that.
So it's
Right.
specific to animals is why they get, but there may be other places where unless it says specifically in our code that we follow their code, then we follow our code.
For the animal control, we follow all of the town's code. We don't have any code for ourselves.
No, I'm just wondering generally. So that specific portion of our code says we follow the town. So
Yes.
if it doesn't say that
Yeah.
in the general area, then our code.
Yes, I see what you're saying. Yes,
I just want to know generally, because it just made me wonder generally.
Yeah, that's the only one I remember that we
Okay.
follow.
It is the only one.
Yeah, we don't have any animal control contracts with anyone, so we were just using the towns. So that would be confusing, but that's the way we work right now. Pat, do you have anything?
Nope.
Okay. Randy.
Those are,
Okay. Then we will go into executive session at 9:25. This is to discuss a current legal dispute. And only the trustees, along with Jody and Bill Troy, should be in that meeting. So, John, good night. Thank you for joining us and helping us out.
Mike, see you.
And 1-607-257-8199. I don't. All right. So I'll need a motion to leave the executive session in a second and then vote.
I'll move to leave the executive session.
Thanks, Simon. Randy seconds. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, Jody. Okay, so we come out of the executive session at 9:31 p.m. and we need to pass a resolution that will allow me to sign a settlement agreement with within a current legal dispute.
I have a point of order. I
Okay,
think we voted on this in executive session, which you can't do. You have to come out of executive session.
It
to
just
vote
came out.
saying-
like we just
came
came out.
I thought we came out after we voted on it.
No, we voted to come out of the executive
Okay,
session.
all right,
Only,
all right.
only,
It's-
sorry.
It's getting late. Sorry.
No kidding, no kidding. So now we will need to pass this resolution. So I need someone to move it. Randy's
Moved.
moving,
So moved.
Pat's seconding. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's it for tonight. The final thing we have to do is move and second to adjourn. I
I'll
move
move.
to adjourn.
Oh, you go ahead.
Pat seconds. All those in favor? You know what to do. Okay, it's unanimous, Jody. Thanks, everyone. I know it was a long meeting,
night.
but we covered a lot. Everyone have a good evening, and I'll come in tomorrow, Jody, and sign 2 things.
Okay.
Okay.